Well, I certainly got a lot of pushback last week from when I released my SEC head coaches rankings. A lot of media have been up in arms about my picks, about my top 16 for my head coaches rankings going into the 2025 college football season. What do you guys think? Let me know what you think because you are going to be in for what should be an interesting little list. Hopefully, I'll have some more engagement as well. We'll see what happens. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Lucas Hill here at South Carolina Live, here at the Voice of College Football. Want to make sure that you all do us a favor. Hit the like and share. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notification so that you are notified every time we go live here on South Carolina Live here at the Voice of College Football. Also want to get you notified for every time we post a new short, post a new video as well. Make sure you follow us on X at THEVOCFB and follow me on X as well at Lucas_Hill23. Always want to thank our good friends over at Amazon for sponsoring every single one of our videos. Guys, make sure you go do us a favor. Go into the Amazon link. Just all you got to do, click the link. It'll bring you automatically into your account. You're already signed in. You don't have to buy anything. Just use that link and help support the Voice of College Football. If you want to learn more,
you can make a difference here at the Voice of College Football. Use the Amazon link. Financially contribute to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. Same shopping experience. It's easy. Go to any video on any channel. Go to the description section and grab the link right next to the capital letters that say Amazon. Use that link, and Amazon will instantaneously convert to your account, settings, history, everything intact, just like whatever link you use right now. No difference. Pay no attention to the product that you see right there. Just go search what you want. Don't forget the Amazon link. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, the Voice of College Football.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Head coaches rankings have officially been released. And let me break it all down for you. I promise you, I have an explanation for every single one of these in my list. But let's start at the bottom. We're going from the bottom up. That's what we do every time here on the Voice of College Football. Coming in at number 16, Mark Stoops is dead in the water, to be honest with you. The last 3 years, you have had a lot of high expectations. I thought in 23, you had some pretty high expectations. I thought people were looking at this roster and saying, okay, you brought back Will Levis. He should be a top prospect. I think he'll have a good season. Bam. You end up what? Winning only 7 games throughout that year. I'm sorry, 22. 22, my mistake, ladies and gentlemen. But, I mean, even then, dating back to 2022, when Kentucky went into that year, coming off of a 10-win season with Liam Cohen as your new offensive coordinator, you start off 4-0 on the season. Boom, you drop a goose egg. You end up 7-6 near the end of the year. After you go into the year, and many people had you as a dark horse contender for an SEC East. Many of you could have said, hey, I know Kentucky may not be there just yet, but they didn't do bad against Georgia. They were competitive most of the time. If their offense can improve, they have a legitimate chance. But then you go into 22 and you lay a goose egg. You get blown out by Tennessee. You blow it against Ole Miss after your quarterback got sacked, 4 times throughout that game. Blow it against South Carolina. That was just a disappointment of a year. In 23, same thing. Start off 5-0, you're hot, you get blown out by Georgia, and you go on a bad losing streak. When you get into SEC play, that's when things start to hit the fan. And then once Liam Cohen left for the NFL, that's when really it started to hit the fan. I knew your season was over with after you lost to Vandy. And then it got worse after you got blown out by Florida. The fact of the matter is that Kentucky's not good. You lost a lot through the portal. You lost a lot of your star guys. You want to see a guy like Mark Stoops get really, really hot? lose to Toledo at Kroger Field. I think the spread in that game, I got to go talk to my guys and see what the line is for that Toledo game against Kentucky. I would not be surprised if Kentucky is less than a 2-touchdown favorite. Probably a plus 13.5, plus 14, because I think Toledo's going to cover. Guys, Kentucky's bad. They're really, really bad. You haven't had a consistent offensive coordinator stay in for the last all this decade, to be honest with you. It's going to be a rough year for Kentucky. Mark Stoops, from what I'm hearing, is going through a very, very rough time at this moment with from what I'm hearing, people are saying like he's going through a divorce. It's a nasty proceeding. Him and his wife are rough, but I will say they didn't do bad. They got a 2026 guy from the state of Ohio who was Gatorade Player of the Year last year from Archbishop Moeller. He's the 3-star guy, but you got to build. It's going to be a complete rebuild, but I don't think Mark Stoops' tenure in Kentucky is going to last much longer. If he does last the rest of this year, I say that he'll be fired after the year. I've heard some people say that he'll be fired after the Tennessee game. It's going to be a rough one. The thing is Kentucky willing to take that $30 million buyout? That's where I have him at. 15, I have Hugh Freeze. Part of me wanted to put Hugh Freeze at the very bottom. But, and by the way, this is where I graded all of these. I graded it off of the last 3 years, since 2023 and beyond. And you can hate me for this, but I mean, that's fine. I've graded them based on the last 3 years, how you've done in recruiting, both in the portal and through high school as well. That's where I have these head coaches' ratings. 15, I have Hugh Freeze, because this year has been a disaster in recruiting. You're in 8, you're what, 75th in recruiting? Many of people are thinking, okay, they're being conservative because I think they're being investigated over NIL deals that have gone south. I don't know exactly what all has gone on. That's where I have, that's at least what I have heard. Do not count me on that, but hey, I could always be wrong at the end of the day. So there's been a lot of NIL strategies that have gone through the floor with Hugh Freeze. And that's what's led to him saying, oh, I'm playing too much golf. That's why we're 75th in recruiting. You have one guy from the state of Alabama in this recruiting class. That's bad. That's really, really bad. You cannot have that right now. You're 86th according to 247 Sports. You have one recruit from the state of Alabama. That's Hezekiah Harris, who's the edge rusher. It's been rough, man. It's been really rough for Hugh Freeze and company. Guys, you have 7 commits. Now, we looked at Texas last year and said, oh my gosh, why aren't they recruiting heavy? They were 43rd in high school, and then by December, they were flipping dudes left and right and finished with a top 10 class. Could the same happen to Auburn? I don't know. But at this point, when we were talking about Auburn last year, this was a top 10 class. This was an unbelievable high school recruiting class that we were talking about Auburn. The last 2 years, 24 and 25. And now all of a sudden they're 86th right now. You can't have that, man. You can't have that. Number one, and this is all Auburn's fault. You've gone through 2 head coaches right now. you may end up firing another one after this year if they don't meet expectations. Hugh Freeze's seat is burning. Burning. The only reason he hasn't been fired after last year is because he's recruited well. That's the difference between him and Brian Harsin, is that he's been able to recruit. Harsin wasn't. You got to get it going, man. Quit playing golf for whatever your excuse is. I don't know what it is. As they always say, poo or get off the pot. Except it wasn't the word poo. 14, Jeff Lebby. He's in a bad situation in Starkville. That's the only reason why I don't have him dead last. Lebby did well through the portal this past year. He got pieces that I think you could have on the defensive side of the ball. And you were competitive at points during the latter part of the season, especially in SEC play. I look at that Georgia game where you put 31 on Georgia, where you kept it close with Texas A&M, where you were able to keep it close in the Egg Bowl, where for a while against Texas, I wouldn't say that they were keeping it close, but it wasn't a runaway for Texas like it was supposed to be, because going into that second half, it was a 2-possession game. Even though you had 294 yards of total offense, guys, you went into the half only down by 8. So you were really realistically kind of in the game up until the last 15 minutes of play. But you just didn't have the weapons, man. Blake Shapen's back. He should be fully healthy. But that opening game against Southern Miss, and by the way, a comment that I wanted to respond to, and I did, David Schultz of Locked On Sunbelt, he responded on this. He said, Lebby has wins over Eastern Kentucky and UMass. He should currently rank over no one. And I responded to his post, and I completely understood. I said, hey, I mean, you're right. I said, brother, I got to give him another year before I put him dead last. He's in a rough situation in Starkville. He didn't do bad in the portal, getting some pieces to fill the holes left on the offensive side of the ball. But on the defensive side, Coleman Hutzler should not be your defensive coordinator right now. He's not good. But then when he gave me this line, Southern Miss plus 12.5, plus 360 versus Mississippi State. Want to see a seat get hot before September 1st? Watch Mississippi State lose the season opener at Southern Miss on August 30th. And I don't know what's going to happen in that game. I think Southern Miss will cover in Hattiesburg, but I don't think they'll win. I like Charlie Huff. I like that you brought back guys like Blake Anderson to the offensive side of the ball, who had been with Southern Miss he hadn't been at Southern Miss in about 10 years. Great head coach. I like him. You know, Charlie Huff brought a lot of guys through the portal. He brought a lot of Marshall guys there. And a lot of guys that you can really trust in your backfield. I'm not going to sit here and say Southern Miss is going to beat Mississippi State in their first game of the season. I will say that there is a chance, however, that this could end up getting close. Do I think it will be that way? No. But I do have some concerns for Mississippi State. Number one, what is your defense going to look like? It's going to be a rough one, man. I mean, if you manage to lose against Southern Miss, yes, he would definitely be on the hot seat. Yes. I think any P4 coach would be on the hot seat if they were to lose to a G5 school or G6 school like that. But I also understand that Lebby is only finishing up his first year, where you had success on the offensive side of the ball at times. The problem is your defense. Your defense was horrible last year. One of the worst defenses in college football. That's not what you saw a lot with Dan and Mullen's offense. And that's what you wanted to. That's why you fired Zach Arnett last year, because as good as your defense was, your offense was horrid. That's why you brought in Jeff Lebby. So year 2 of the Lebby era is going to have a lot of issues. But can you get them fixed? Especially on defense? 13, I have Brent Venables. Why on earth they decided to extend Brent after 1 year of winning 10 games is beyond me. And by the way, you're coming off of your first year, coming off of a 6-7 season. And then the very next year, yeah, you win 10 games. You beat Texas. The fact that you signed him to that massive deal is beyond me. And the fact of the matter is, in Brent Venables' tenure, since 22? Yeah, 22. You have gone through 1, 2, 3. Now you're on your 4th offensive coordinator in Ben Arbuckle. I like Ben Arbuckle a lot better than I've liked Seth Luttrell last year after what he did to destroy that Oklahoma offense. And now you brought in Ben Arbuckle, who's now your primary guy. I like Ben Arbuckle. Ben Arbuckle is a really good offensive coordinator. He is a very smart offensive coordinator. Arbuckle can transform offenses. He did it last year with Washington State and John Mateer. And John Mateer, by the way, is now an Oklahoma Sooner. How will Oklahoma improve going into 2025? Your offense is going to take leaps and bounds beyond what anyone could have ever imagined. And that air raid offense of what you had will be incredible. It was one of the best offenses in college football. Yes, your defense lacked, but in games where it mattered, guys, absolutely amazing seeing the type of athletes that came out of West Virginia or Washington State. Guys, Washington State put up gaudy numbers. I understand they're in a G6 school. Even so, the offense clicked really well. Now you bring him in, maybe things will change, man. Maybe things will end up changing at the end of the day. But man, it's one that you could have a lot of trust in at the end of the day. But again, we'll have to see at the end of the day with what happens with Oklahoma's offense, because you have a lot of potential. The problem is that what happens in game. How does your offensive line perform? That was a big Achilles heel last year. That was one of the worst in penalty yardage last year. You were one of the worst on third down last year. How are you going to improve from last year with Seth Luttrell to this year with Ben Arbuckle? 12, I have Sam Pittman. Pittman got his butt saved by a hair last year. We were talking last year with a couple of guys, and we thought if he starts September under 500, he'll be done by the middle of November. Well, he beat Tennessee, and he saved his butt. Good job. Now this is another big year for him because goodbye is Taylor Green, or not Taylor Green. Andrew Armstrong's gone. Majority of your secondary is gone. Now you have to regroup and reload. I like what you got in the portal. You've got speed, a lot of it. How can Taylor Green be consistent, however, in this Bobby Petrino offense? That's a question that needs to be answered in this year. If they can get it clicking together, we'll see them back in a bowl game this year. But if not, man, I don't know. Because I have Arkansas going 4-8 this year. It's a tough schedule because you play at Ole Miss, you play at Memphis with a great head coach in Ryan Silverfield. You play Notre Dame, you play at Tennessee, Texas A&M, Auburn and Mississippi State. I think you'll win. You'll at least win one of the two. At LSU, at Texas, and playing Missouri in the battle line rivalry. Guys, it's not an easy stretch. Sam Pittman's one of the nicest head coaches that you can see around college football. The problem is that they can never finish. That has been your biggest problem ever since you've been at Arkansas, is being unable to finish a football game. You've choked game after game after game, and Arkansas fans are sick of it, and they're ready to move on. I think they finished 4-12 or 3-9 this year. I don't think it's going to get any better this year in Sam Pittman's potentially final year as Arkansas head coach. 11, I have Clark Lea. Guys, Clark Lea made a huge jump. He would have been dead last this year. He may not have even been on the list, to be honest with you. But guess what? They did it. They did it. They made a bowl game. They won a bowl game. And you've got one of the most exciting players in college football coming back in Diego Pavia. You've got Junior Sherrill coming back. You have Eli Stowers coming back. You have Cedric Alexander coming back. You are going to be a really, really interesting program in 2025. I don't know if I've seen more hype around Vanderbilt than I ever have this year. That is incredible to me, seeing the type of potential that I have ever witnessed around a Vanderbilt program. Tim Beck has had an unbelievable start to his tenure as offensive coordinator. Really, really smart offensive coordinator. Knows how to run the option with Pavia. And looking at what Vanderbilt has, this is a schedule that to me can go one of two ways. They finish, in my opinion, their floor is 4-8. Their ceiling, dare I say it, Vanderbilt could win 8 or 9 games this year. I think Vanderbilt may end up starting off at least 4-1, either 4-1 or 3-2 on the season. They'll beat Charleston Southern. They'll either lose to Virginia Tech or South Carolina. I expect them to lose to South Carolina because I think they'll go into Virginia Tech and shut out Blacksburg yet again. Georgia State, I think there's a vengeance to that. You're not playing down to your opponent. You're winning that football game. Same with Utah State. At Alabama, you'll lose that one. LSU, you'll lose. I expect you to beat Missouri. I don't think Missouri is better than you, to be honest with you. You'll go to Texas. You'll be 5-4. You'll beat Auburn. You'll beat Kentucky. You may lose to Tennessee. 7 or 8 win season, guys. If you pull an upset against either LSU or go to Tennessee and knock them out in Neyland, man, how much of a success would that be? Even if you don't do that, if you start off 5-0, guys, you're still going to have an opportunity to win 8 games. 7-8 win season, and Clark Leah could end up being SEC coach of the full-time SEC coach of the year. Man, how amazing would that be for Vandy? 10, I have Mike Elko. Guys, it still smells like Jimbo Fisher and Kevin Sumlin in College Station. To be completely honest with you, I don't really know what to expect in year 2. I have them going 7-5 again. And I don't even think it will be to me, it won't even be a coaching issue. It'll be a personnel issue. As good as Marcel Reed is, I don't know if he can run the option well. He is a running back playing in a quarterback's body. And guys, guess what? The first 2 seasons for every Texas A&M head coach since they made it to the SEC, they've been pretty good. And then the next year they got better. And then the year after they got worse. Last year for Elko just wasn't that great of a year. You start off great. You started off the year, what? 7-1? Yeah, you start at 7-1. Number 10 in the nation. You get beat up by South Carolina at Willie B. Then you go to Auburn and go to quadruple overtime and blow it on the final freaking play where you drop what was the greatest play design that I've ever seen for a 2-point conversion, where you have Terry Bussey throw into, I think it was Noah Thomas in the corner of the end zone. Perfect play, and you drop the football. Then you end up losing to Texas. I expected that to happen. The Vegas Bowl, in my opinion, was a disaster. Guys, Marcel Reed did not do very well with throwing the football. He played hero ball a lot, and he made some really bad mistakes. Mistakes that, in my opinion, he should not have made. He's got to improve on his accuracy. And I think late on in the season, he got into a lot of trouble with trying to be something that he really wasn't. He was trying to basically be more mobile and try to limit him throwing the football. Guys, it wouldn't work. He got stuck in that, and he got stuck to throwing 30, 40. He passes a game. I need him to tone that down a good bit, and I want Colin Klein to look at him and say, hey, we don't need you to throw the football as much if we don't need you to. That's what killed you. Red zone inefficiencies and turning the football over in the red zone is what killed you later on in the year. Number 9, I have Billy Napier. Napier to me is a very lucky man because he's got DJ Lagway in his backfield. DJ Lagway is going to be in for a hell of a year. Guys, it's going to be a very, very intriguing year for Florida. And I do think that you have an opportunity to pull off a couple wins, in my opinion. It started rough last year, and you were ready to fire Napier. It's easier than it was at the start of last year. It's much easier than where you were last year. You play the Long Island Sharks, you play USF, at LSU, at Miami, Texas, at A&M, Mississippi State, Georgia in the cocktail party, at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Florida State at home. I wouldn't be surprised if you go 9-3 during that stretch. You'll beat Tennessee and Florida State at home. I do think you go to Ole Miss and you beat the piss out of Ole Miss. See how that rhymed? Georgia, that's a toss-up. Kentucky, you'll beat the piss out of them. Miami, I expect you to win. We'll see what happens at Kyle Field. That's a toss-up. Mississippi State, you'll beat the piss out of them. LSU's a toss-up. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guaranteed wins, and then 4 that are toss-ups that could go either way. I don't see one that you could where Florida is that I don't see them as a surefire, like, man, they're definitely going to lose that one. Maybe LSU, but again, I think that one will be close. Very close at the end of the day. But Florida hasn't beaten LSU in Death Valley in a little while, honestly. They haven't beaten LSU in Death Valley since 2016. They haven't beaten LSU at night in Death Valley since 2009. Because that 16 game was played in the daytime, which I thought was ludicrous. Could Florida steal a win in Death Valley? We'll see, man. Definitely wouldn't be surprised if they do. 8, I have Shane Beamer. Shane Beamer got his ass saved last year. Thank you, Lenora Sellers, for saving me. Effective offensively. And now you're going into 25. Everybody's saying, "Oh, well, we might go to the college football playoff. We've got a great offensive coordinator. We've got a great roster around them." I'm here to tell you guys, set your prior. Look, I've said this time and time and time again. Lower your expectations, please, South Carolina fans. Then you'll be able to have success. I've told many people that. Please do me a favor. Don't get yourself into these silly little things that make you think that you're going to do these great things all around and you're going to exceed expectations at the end of the day. If you set your expectations low, then you'll be able to, in my opinion, have an opportunity to maybe go 8-4, 9-3 this year, which I think would be a better ending to Lenore Sellers' time in Columbia, South Carolina, than ending it off with a 6-6 season where you had high hopes going into the year. Guys, set your expectations where they should. But Shane Beamer's a hell of a coach at the end of the day. 7, I have Eli Drinkwitz. 2 great years. One where you win 11 games and you end up making a New Year's Six Bowl. You beat Ohio State. And then last year, I would say some people would call a 10-win year that year a good year. But when I look at what Missouri did last year, I look at what they did as a whole last year as a 10-win team. And I'm just not impressed. In my opinion, that was the worst 10-win team in college football. The only top 25 win that you had all year was against Boston College. And guess where Boston College ended up? They were 7-6 by the end of the year. They weren't good. Vandy, what you could say was a pretty decent win. They finished 7-6. You don't have a quality win. And in 2 of the 3 games you played, you lost by an average of 65 divided by 2. You lost by an average of 33 points a game. That wasn't a great 10-win team for Missouri. But I do think you're in for a rebuild year with Drink. I like him. Been a hell of an offensive coach. Did a great job in recruiting. But guys, you built a lot through the portal. I think your run game will be slightly improved. But I don't know really with what to expect yet from a guy like Ahmad Hardy. I like Ahmad Hardy. He went to ULM. Saw him a couple times. Hard runner. But you still got a lot of work to do. 6, I have Josh Heupel. And this is where a lot of people did not like this list. Let me tell you why I have Josh Heupel at 6, and I left him out of the top 5. The last 3 years, you've done well. Yes, you made it to a college football playoff last year. Yes, in 22 that you were this close to making a college football playoff, but you won into your 6th game. Your first year, rebuild. You start 7-6. You end up losing in a tight one in the Music City Bowl, one of the best bowl games that we've seen over the last couple of years. Also, one of the most controversial as well. But then you go into the very next year in 22. You absolutely dominate. You lose to Georgia. You blow it against South Carolina. Blown out, by the way. South Carolina put a 60 ball on you. Then you look at 23 with Joe Milton. You still can't beat Florida in Ben Hill Griffin. You still can't beat Bama in Bryant Denny. You couldn't do it against Missouri. You got blown out there after Cody Schrader lit you up. But you managed to pull off a big one against Iowa. But you also got blown out by Georgia. 24. You beat Arkansas. Great. You barely got over that Florida hump. Florida should have won that game, by the way. Alabama, you managed to pull away with that one. Georgia, you still couldn't get over the hump when you had plenty of opportunity to when they were wounded and you could have knocked them out. You still didn't do that. You woke your offense up after a slow start against Tennessee, but you make a college football playoff. And everybody was telling me, well, Tennessee's beaten Alabama and Florida in Alabama and Florida. Oh, Heupel's beaten Alabama. Heupel's done this. Heupel's done that. Okay. What about when it matters? What about late in the season in 22? When all you have to do is beat South Carolina at Willie B. And your defense basically crapped a brick. What about in 23 late in the season where you had an outside chance, but your offense couldn't get going against Alabama and Bryant Denny, where you still have not been able to beat Florida at Ben Hill Griffin since 2003. Still haven't been able to do that, guys. It's in the games that matter that, in my opinion, are more important than overall, oh, we've beaten this team early in the season. You haven't been able to do that. Now, I'm not saying any of these other coaches have done that just yet, but I'm also looking at 25 as well, looking ahead, and I'm saying to myself, Tennessee's in a position right now where one of two things could happen. You had some pretty decent transfers come in. You got a lot on the offensive line, too. It doesn't help that you know that you lost a guy, you lost a lot of your receivers last year. You lost Nate Spillman, Squirrel White, Caleb Webb, Chase Nimrod, Nathan Leacock, Charlie Browder, Khalifa Keith. Plus, you lost Dylan Sampson last year to the draft. That opening game against Syracuse is going to determine what's going to happen this year. Don't be surprised if Tennessee gets out of September at 3-2. I see them losing. I see Syracuse going into the Aflac kickoff game with a young quarterback, even though it's Ricky Collins. Joey Aguilar is a young quarterback too. Who's going to have more experience at the end of the day? In my opinion, that's going to be Ricky Collins and company. I see them beating Tennessee first game of the season. Then Georgia goes to Neyland. Georgia knocks them out. You'll beat Mississippi State. You'll beat Arkansas. You'll lose to Bama. You'll beat Kentucky. You'll beat Oklahoma. You'll beat New Mexico State. You'll lose to Florida. You'll beat Vandy. That right there, 1, 2, 3, another 8-4, 9-4 season. Right now, though, that is your floor. If you are Tennessee, you are a 9-4 team in your low points, and you're a 10-2 program that makes the college football playoff right now. Number 5, I have Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly's absolutely dominated the transfer portal this year, and you've also dominated recruiting. That's amazing. That's great. Guys, you'll take that any day of the week. Had 2 10-win seasons, and in a position where the 2 years prior at LSU, things were horrible. Where you were expected to finish 5th in Brian Kelly's first year, but then you go into 22. You may have gotten run out of the building by Tennessee, but you come back and you finally managed to get a 10-win year. And now you go into 25. You win the SEC West. You have a Heisman Trophy winner. Last year, you had plenty of opportunities, but you had a bad 3-game stretch. But then you looked at the last 3 games and you're like, okay, this offense can do something. The defense, I think, is going to be an interesting point because secondary-wise, you'll still be somewhat young. I think there is a lot to look forward to in DJ Pickett on the outside. But this LSU team, look, you got a lot to prove in 25. I would say they have a target on their back going into 25 as well. Because many, many pundits have said that they could potentially be a national championship caliber team. Now you have that target on your back. Well, what are you going to do about it? You go to Clemson, first game of the season. You may end up dropping that. We'll see what you do the rest of the year. Florida and DJ Lagway, who kicked your ass last year, comes to town. You go to Ole Miss, a young Ole Miss team, going back to the Magnolia Bowl. Can you finally get a win in Oxford? You haven't gotten a win in Oxford since 2019. The last time you won a national championship. With a young quarterback, by the way, that's pretty good. I like Austin Simmons. Plays South Carolina with Lenore Sellers back at the helm. A team that's looking for revenge because they feel like they got screwed last year. You go to Vandy with Diego Pavia. Texas A&M with a young offense. At Bryant-Denny Arkansas, Western Kentucky, and then you finish off against Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer at Gaylord Memorial. The target on their back is huge. Can Brian Kelly finally get over that hump and win a big one on the road? That's definitely going to be one that you need to look out for. 4, I have Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer went into this offseason pissed off. You got a lot of guys through the 26 class that I am extremely, extremely impressed with. You have 9 starters returning on the defensive side of the ball. You have one of the best offensive lines returning on the offensive side of the ball. Did I say offense? 9 starters on the defensive side. On offense, I think your receiving room is extremely deep. Extremely deep. Ryan Grubb is back as offensive coordinator. This time he means it for real. He's not leaving. We'll see what happens with a young quarterback in Ty Simpson and a receiving room that includes Isaiah Horton, Jalen Mbakwe, Ryan Williams, and Jeremy Bernard, where your offensive line room has 3 top 50 guys in Parker Brailsford, Caden Proctor, who's probably going to be a top 5 guy next year's draft, and Jaden Roberts. Your defensive line is incredible with Tim Keenan, Keon Kelly, and LT Overton. And then your DB room, don't even get me started with Domani Jackson, Xavier Brown, Keon Sabb, Dijon Lee, and Cam Calhoun. Not to mention a stud at safety at Bray Hubbard that'll knock your freaking block off. Guys, this is a really, really good defensive room. Deontay Lawson, by the way, will be the leader of this Bama defense. The redshirt senior who's been there since 21. Got a lot. He's the captain of the team. Was an all SEC recognition last year. He's going to be a top draft pick next year. Guys, in my opinion, Kalen DeBoer is cooking up something really special. I have them going to Atlanta this year. I have them going 11-1, with the lone loss being either at Georgia or if LSU comes to town and beats them. We'll see. 3, I have Lane Kiffin. Kiffin's dominated recruiting. One of the best trolls in college football. Even though Ole Miss has a young roster, guys, you've been able to build through the portal really well. Can you build around Austin Simmons? I think you can. I like what you got. Your tight end room is stacked, even though you lost, especially when you gain a guy like Luke has. Man, you have a loaded offense. Your defense is loading up at the edge. Especially when you get a guy like Deshaun Womack, who many people thought should have been a starter last year for LSU. Kiffin's a hell of a coach, man. They're going to end eventually. They're going to be my dark horse to get into the college football playoff this year. 2, this is going to cause some controversy. Kirby Smart. I know he's beaten Sark twice in the SEC and in the regular season. But I feel like going into this year, Georgia's receiving room is good. I don't have trust in their quarterback. I just do not have trust whatsoever in Georgia's quarterback. I don't trust Gunnar Stockton. I don't trust Mike Bobo. I don't. And this is not to be a downer about it, but I'm just being honest. I think if Gunnar Stockton is to get benched, Ryan Pagulski, or Ryan Montgomery is going to take over as the starter. At the end of the day, But I think overall, you have to be honest with yourself and look at Georgia's roster with clear eyes and say to yourself, are they really going to be back this year? Their quarterback situation is very dim at this point in time. You don't have a solid option until Jared Curtis comes to town next year. And once Jared Curtis gets signed, most of that quarterback room is gone. So Kirby's got to get his quarterback situation settled for this year to prepare for what is going to be a pretty interesting head coaching, or for what is going to be a pretty good quarterback room next year. Even though it'll be younger, it'll be one that you have a lot more confidence in at the end of the day. Number one, I have Steve Sarkisian. The most complete roster in college football. One that I think is going to play for a national championship. One that I think will win the national championship. One that I think he's been building the last 2 years, getting ready for this move to the SEC. He took the SEC by storm last year. They make the SEC championship. And you have the pieces to do it. You have the pieces to be able to win a national title. So we'll see what Arch Manning has. I've heard a lot of people say, what if Texas goes 8-4 this year? What if people look at that and say, oh my God. Like, on a serious note, guys, what if Texas does go 8-4 this year? I think that's bad and good. Bad because of preseason expectations for you, and you'll go down as one of the most disappointing that you've had in recent memory. But I think it's also good because the majority of that offense could return. Who knows? That could really impact if Arch Manning decides to go to the draft or not. I think he should stay, even if Texas goes on to win a national championship, because he'll have only one full year as a starter there. To me, Arch Manning, I think, should stay in college for another year and develop into the Steve Sarkisian offense, but we'll see. Sark has one of the best rosters in college football. It's only going to get better from here. Their class is one of the best. Their recruiting has been on point. That's why I have them at 1. That's why I left Kirby at 2. I just look at the future and I see Texas on top for the next couple of years to come. That is my rankings. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Again, like I said, I got a lot of pushback from this on social media, but I'm probably going to get a lot of pushback on this with you guys' comments down below. Make sure you do us a favor, guys. Please, please, please like, share, and subscribe to the Voice of College Football here at South Carolina. We're on the road to 600 subscribers. We're at 524 right now. Guys, we've been steadily gaining more and more subscribers over the last month. We appreciate you guys' support. And again, hit the bell notification. You are notified so that every time we go live, every time we post a new short, every time we post a new video, you are the first ones to know. If you're watching us, wherever you're watching or listening to us, thank you for making the Voice of College Football at South Carolina your very first listen of the day. I'm your host, as always, Lucas Hill. Follow me on X at Lucas_Hill23. Follow the Voice of College Football at THEVOCFB. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, stay blessed. Don't stress.